The Starhawk drifted through the cold vastness of space, its engines humming like a sleeping beast. Captain Darian Voss leaned back in his pilot's chair, scanning the blinking lights on the control panel. The job had been simple: deliver cargo to Sora Station, get paid, and move on. No trouble, no surprises. He sighed. Surprises were never good. But something felt off. The ship's scanners detected a strange heat signature in the cargo hold. A stowaway? Impossible. The hold was locked tight, and Darian ran a careful ship. Still, the alert flashed on the screen like a warning sign he couldn't ignore. Grabbing his pulse pistol, he stood up. His tall, broad-shouldered frame moved smoothly through the dim corridors of the Starhawk, boots tapping against metal. The ship wasn't luxurious, but it was his home. A mix of steel walls, exposed wiring, and the faint scent of old engine grease. The cargo hold was dark, lined with towering crates of supplies. Darian narrowed his storm-gray eyes. Something was here. Then, a sound, a faint rustle, like fabric against metal. Darian moved fast. He yanked open a supply crate, pistol aimed, and froze. Inside, curled up in the shadows, was a girl. Not just any girl. Her skin was silver, smooth and reflective like polished metal, and glowing violet veins pulsed faintly beneath the surface. Her eyes, an unnatural shade of deep amethyst, locked onto his with a mix of fear and defiance. Her long, dark hair spilled over her shoulders, strands shimmering under the dim cargo bay lights. Darian had seen many things in his time as a smuggler, but never anything like this. "Who the hell are you?" he demanded. The girl pressed herself deeper into the crate, her slim form tense. She wore a torn, dark bodysuit, scuffed and burned, as if she had been running for her life. Her breathing was shallow, but she didn't speak. Darian didn't lower his gun. "Look, stowaway," he said, keeping his voice firm. "If you're trying to steal from me, you picked the wrong ship." The girl finally moved, her glowing veins dimming as she shifted. "I didn't steal anything," she said, her voice smooth yet wary. "Then why are you hiding on my ship?" She hesitated. Then, as if deciding something, she exhaled. "Because if they find me, I'm dead." Darian's grip on the pistol tightened. He had a bad feeling about this. "Who's they?" Before she could answer, the Starhawk's emergency alarm blared. Darian cursed and sprinted to the cockpit. His screen lit up with an urgent message flashing in bold red letters. "Bound to ALER. UGATI. XELARA of NYX. ARA. Reward. 10 million SURADES. Dead or alive." His eyes flicked to the girl. Cilara, the most wanted fugitive in the galaxy, was sitting in his cargo hold. And now, every bounty hunter in the universe would be coming for them both. Darian Voss clenched his jaw as he stared at the bounty alert flashing on his cockpit screen. 10 million credits. He had smuggled rare weapons, stolen tech, and even fugitives before, but never had he seen a price that high on anyone's head. The girl, Cilara, wasn't just running from a minor gang or a corrupt official. No, the Zenith Dominion itself wanted her dead. And now he was caught in the middle. He turned sharply, storming back toward the cargo hold where Cilara still sat in a crate. Her violet eyes flicked up to him, wary and unreadable. The faint glow of her silver skin pulsed like a dying star. "Start talking," Darian growled, crossing his arms. "Who are you? Why is the Dominion after you?" Cilara hesitated. Then, with a slow breath, she pushed herself out of the crate and stood to her full height. She was tall and slender, but there was something strong in the way she held herself, like someone used to fighting, used to running. "They want me dead," she said simply, "because I know the truth." Darian narrowed his storm-gray eyes. "Truth about what?" She glanced at the blinking bounty alert still shining on the screen. The cold hum of the ship filled the silence between them. Finally, she said, The war against my people. The Nixari. It was a lie. Darien frowned. A lie. The Dominion wiped out your kind centuries ago. Silara's jaw tightened. That's what they want everyone to believe. She stepped closer, her glowing veins flickering like a heartbeat. But we weren't wiped out. We were hunted. And I'm the last one left. Darien exhaled slowly. And I have something they can't allow to exist. She reached into the small satchel hanging from her waist. Darien tensed, fingers brushing his holster, but she didn't pull out a weapon. Instead, she held up a small metallic disc, no larger than his palm. It shimmered with strange blue symbols, shifting and twisting like they were alive. This, she said, her voice almost a whisper, this holds the Dominion's darkest secret. Darien stared at the disc. He had seen plenty of forged data chips before, but this felt different, older, more dangerous. He exhaled sharply. Let me guess, whatever's on there is worth more than 10 million credits. Silara gave a small, humorless smile. It's worth the entire Dominion. Darien cursed under his breath. He ran a smuggling ship, not a Dan rebellion. If half the galaxy was hunting Silara, then keeping her on board was a death sentence. You should have picked another ship, Princess, he muttered. I didn't have a choice, she shot back. Your flight path was the only one that got me off Valkar 3 before they found me. Darien clenched his fists. He should turn her in. 10 million credits could buy him a fleet, a whole new life. But something about her story, about the way she stood defiant even with half the universe against her, made him pause. He wasn't a hero, never had been. But he sure as hell wasn't a traitor either. The Starhawk's alarm suddenly blared, shaking the ship's metal walls. Darien rushed back to the cockpit. His screen lit up with a warning signal. Multiple ships had entered their sector. His stomach sank as the Dominion's insignia glowed bright on his radar. They found us, he muttered. Silara stepped beside him, her voice calm but firm. Then we fight. Darien glanced at her. This girl, this fugitive, had just dragged him into the biggest storm of his life. And somehow, he knew, there was no turning back. The Starhawk shuddered as a warning alarm blared through the ship. Darien Voss gripped the controls, his storm-gray eyes scanning the radar. 3 Dominion ships had just dropped out of hyperspace behind him. Sleek, black destroyers with enough firepower to rip his ship apart in seconds. Hang on, he muttered, flipping a switch. The engines roared to life as he threw the Starhawk into a steep dive toward the asteroid field below. Silara stood beside him, gripping the edge of the co-pilot's seat. Are you crazy? That field is unstable. Darien smirked. Exactly. They won't follow us in. A loud blast rocked the ship as a Dominion cruiser fired, its plasma cannon barely missing the hull. The shields flared, absorbing the brunt of the impact, but another hit like that, and the Starhawk would be nothing but floating debris. Darien gritted his teeth. He had to lose them. Fast. He pushed the thrusters to full, sending the ship spiraling through a maze of jagged asteroids. Chunks of rock tumbled past the cockpit, some the size of entire buildings. The Dominion ships hesitated at the edge of the field, their pilots clearly debating if it was worth the risk. But then, one of them dove in after them. Silara tensed. They're not backing off. Darien twisted the controls, weaving between the tumbling rocks. They will when they realize I'm a better pilot than them. Another blast streaked past the hull. The enemy ship was closing in. Take the turret, Darien ordered. Silara hesitated. I don't. Now. Without another word, she sprinted toward the gunner's seat. The turret swiveled to life, and a moment later bright streaks of blue laser fire lit up the darkness. Silara wasn't an expert gunner, but she was fast. Her shots forced the Dominion ship to swerve, buying them precious seconds. Darien spotted a cluster of asteroids ahead, one of them splitting apart, revealing a glowing energy core, the collapsing neutron fragment. A crazy idea formed in his mind. He hit the comm. Cilara, stop shooting and hold on. She barely had time to react before Darien did the unthinkable. He barreled straight toward the collapsing asteroid. The Dominion pilot followed, probably thinking Darien had lost control. Big mistake. At the last second, Darien spun the ship sideways, skimming the asteroid's surface. The Dominion pilot tried to follow, but the neutron core detonated, sending a shockwave through space. The enemy ship was caught in the explosion. Its hull cracked, flames bursting from its engines before it was swallowed by the debris. 1 down, 2 to go. Silara's voice came through the comm. That was insane. Darien grinned. You're welcome. But his victory was short-lived. The remaining 2 Dominion ships weren't hesitating anymore. They were closing in fast, and this time, they weren't holding back. Cilara rushed back into the cockpit. We can't outrun them forever. Darien's hands tightened on the controls. He needed an escape route. Now. Then, an idea hit him. It was risky, maybe even suicidal. But it was their only shot. There's a dead zone past this field, he said. A gravity well that scrambles sensors. If we reach it, we disappear. Cilara's eyes widened. That's in uncharted space. No one who goes in ever comes out. Darien smirked. Guess we'll be the first. With the Dominion ships closing in, he punched the engines to max thrust, steering straight into the unknown. No turning back now. The Starhawk roared through space, its engines burning at maximum thrust. Behind them, 2 Dominion ships pursued relentlessly, their weapons charging for another round of deadly fire. Ahead, the gravity well loomed like a swirling abyss, a region of space so unstable that no ship had ever crossed it and survived. Darien Voss gritted his teeth. He had flown through asteroid storms, dodged bounty hunters, and outmaneuvered Dominion warships before. But this was pure madness. You better be right about this dead zone, Cilara said, bracing herself against the console as the ship rattled from another near miss. Her glowing amethyst eyes flicked to the swirling black void ahead. Her silver skin pulsed faintly, reacting to the strange energies pulling at the ship. I don't do right, Darien said. I do alive. The ship's warning sirens screamed as a plasma shot grazed their left wing, shaking the entire hull. Shields are failing, Cilara shouted. Darien didn't answer. His focus was locked on the gravity well. They were seconds from entering it, and if his gamble was wrong, the ship would be crushed into nothingness. The Dominion pilots must have realized the danger because they hesitated. Their ships slowed, unwilling to risk entering the unstable region. Darien smirked. Cowards. And then they crossed the threshold. The moment the Starhawk entered the well, everything changed. The ship lurched violently, its systems flickering. The stars outside stretched and twisted, bending like liquid. Darien's stomach flipped as gravity pulled them in every direction at once. Cilara grabbed onto the seat, her silver veins glowing brighter. This place, it's not just empty space. She shut her eyes, as if sensing something ancient. Darien had no time to ask what she meant. The controls went dead. The engines flickered out. The ship was spinning out of control. No. Darien slammed buttons, trying to restart the systems, but nothing responded. A deep rumbling echoed through the ship, not from the engines, not from the hull. From outside. Cilara's glowing eyes snapped open. Something's here. The blackness outside shifted. Darien's pulse pounded. It wasn't just a gravity well. It wasn't just unstable space. Something was moving in the darkness. A massive shape stirred, its silhouette barely visible against the void. It was unlike any ship, any station, anything Darien had ever seen. A structure, a vessel, a living thing. Then the whispers began. Soft at first, like wind through metal. Then louder. echoing in the walls of the ship. In his skull, a voice without words, calling, watching, waiting. Zilura gasped. Her entire body pulsed with energy, her silver veins shining like lightning beneath her skin. It knows me. Darian barely heard her. His vision blurred. His thoughts weren't his own anymore. The ship wasn't falling. It was being pulled, drawn into the abyss. Then, suddenly, silence. The ship stopped moving. The alarms went dead. The pull of gravity vanished. Outside the viewport, the blackness was gone. Instead, a massive structure stretched before them, suspended in the void. Ancient, alien, pulsing with energy that looked eerily similar to Xilara's own. Xilera took a slow, shaky breath. We're not alone. Darian gripped the controls, but deep down, he knew something else was gripping them. And it wasn't letting go. Darian Voss stared in disbelief at the colossal structure floating before them. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. Ancient, pulsing with a faint blue glow, its design too smooth, too advanced, to be anything built by human hands. Massive rings of dark metal hovered around its core, shifting and spinning in silence. Xilera stood beside him, her violet eyes locked onto the strange vessel. Her silver veins glowed softly, reacting to its presence. "This place," she whispered. "It's alive." Darian swallowed hard. Alive. Before she could answer, the ship's engines rumbled back to life on their own. The controls flickered, and a strange energy surged through the Starhawk, not from the ship itself, but from the structure outside. Darian's hands hovered over the controls. He hadn't touched anything, but somehow they were moving forward, as if something unseen was pulling them in. "This is a bad idea," he muttered. But stopping wasn't an option. The Starhawk glided silently toward an opening in the alien structure, a massive circular gateway lined with glowing blue symbols. Xilera placed a hand on the glass of the viewport. The symbols shifted as if reacting to her touch. Darian noticed. "What the hell is this place?" She didn't answer. Her breathing had quickened. She looked drawn to it, as if something inside was calling to her. The ship passed through the gateway, and suddenly, everything went dark. For a terrifying moment, there was nothing. No stars, no sound, no ship, just emptiness. Then, light exploded around them. The Starhawk emerged inside a vast, open chamber the size of a city, its walls lined with massive glowing conduits stretching endlessly into the void. At the center of the chamber, floating in silence, was a monolithic spire, humming with power. Xilara's voice was barely a whisper. "This is Nixari technology." Darian tensed. "I thought your people were wiped out." "They were." She turned to him, her violet eyes shining with realization. "But this proves it. The Dominion lied. My people were more advanced than they ever admitted. They didn't just kill us. They stole from us." Darian didn't like the sound of that. "So, what? The Dominion's been using your tech for centuries." Xilera exhaled slowly. "And whatever they couldn't take, they buried." She turned to the spire, her silver skin pulsing with energy. "But this place, it survived." Darian's gut told him this was dangerous. There was something eerie about the silence, something unnatural about how the station had waited here for so long, untouched. And yet it was still powered, still, watching. A soft hum filled the air. Xilera stiffened. "It knows I'm here." Before Darian could react, the ship's console lit up with strange symbols, scrolling too fast to read. A voice, not a real voice, but a deep, pulsing presence, echoed through the ship's systems. It spoke in a language Darian didn't understand. But Xilera did. Her breath hitched. "It's asking if I am the last." Darian's pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" She turned to him, fear and wonder mixing in her expression. "This station, it's not abandoned. It's been waiting for a Nixari to return." She swallowed hard. It's been waiting for me. A deep rumbling shook the chamber. Lights flared to life across the station, and suddenly, Darien knew, whatever they had just woken up, wasn't going back to sleep. The Starhawk trembled as deep, rumbling vibrations pulsed through the alien station. The lights that lined the vast chamber flickered and brightened, casting long shadows against the metallic walls. Something had changed. Darien Voss tightened his grip on the controls, even though the ship was still moving on its own, guided by forces he couldn't see. He hated not being in control. Celara stood frozen beside him, her glowing amethyst eyes locked onto the central spire. Her silver veins pulsed brighter, as if the energy inside the station was responding to her presence. "This place isn't just a ruin," she whispered. "It's waking up." Darien gave a wary glance around. "Yeah, well, let's hope it's friendly." As if in response, a massive circular door slid open ahead of them, revealing a deep corridor that stretched into the heart of the station. The ship glided forward, drawn in by an invisible force. Darien tensed. "I don't like this." "We have to go," Celara said. "This place knows me. It's been waiting for me. There might be answers inside." Darien exhaled sharply. "Right. And if those answers try to kill us?" Celara gave him a small, knowing smile. "Then we run." The ship came to a stop inside a large docking bay, its landing gear automatically deploying, the engines powered down without Darien's input. That didn't make him feel any better. With a deep breath, he grabbed his blaster and stood. "Let's make this quick." The Hall of Echoes. The moment they stepped out of the ship, a low hum filled the air. The docking bay was massive, lined with towering pillars etched with glowing blue symbols. The walls pulsed softly, as if the station itself was breathing. Celara reached out, running her fingers across one of the glowing symbols. A holographic interface flickered to life, displaying streams of unreadable text and shifting diagrams. A moment later, the deep, echoing voice from before returned, speaking in the same strange language. Darien instinctively raised his weapon, but Celara lifted a hand. "Wait." The symbols shifted, rearranging themselves into something readable. A new voice, softer this time, emerged. Female. Ancient. Calm. Nexari descendant detected. Access granted. Initializing. Celara's breath caught in her throat. It knows me. The walls shuddered, and a hidden doorway slid open at the far end of the bay. A long corridor stretched beyond it, leading deeper into the station. Darien eyed it warily. "And this is the part where we get trapped inside, right?" Celara gave him a look. "Stay close." They stepped forward. The air inside the corridor was thick with energy, static crackling against their skin. The deeper they went, the more the walls changed, shifting from metal to something almost organic, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. Then they reached the center of the station. The chamber before them was vast, dominated by a massive, floating crystal, its surface shimmering with swirling patterns of light. Strange, holographic figures circled it, Nixari in long flowing robes, their faces serene, but flickering like ghosts. Celara stepped forward, staring at the crystal in awe. "This is a memory core." Darien frowned. "You mean a recording?" "More than that," she said. "This holds the knowledge of my people, their history, their technology." She turned to him, her eyes wide with realization. If the Dominion has been stealing from the Nixari, then this core might contain the truth, proof of everything they've hidden. Darien's stomach tightened. "Then we need to get it out of here, before the Dominion figures out we found it." Celara hesitated. "I don't think we can just take it." Before Darien could respond, the ground trembled beneath them. The crystal flashed brighter, and suddenly, one of the holographic figures turned to face them. It spoke. Celara's face paled. "It's warning us." Darien's fingers hovered over his blaster. "Warning us about what?" Celara swallowed hard. that we're not alone. As she said the words, a deep mechanical groan echoed through the station, and somewhere in the darkness, something moved. A low, mechanical groan echoed through the chamber. The air grew heavy, charged with an unseen energy. The shimmering Nixuri holograms flickered, their ghostly forms distorting as if something had disturbed them. Darien Voss instinctively grabbed his blaster, scanning the room. I don't like this. Silara's amethyst eyes widened, her silver veins pulsing faintly. The station is reacting to us. It knows we're here. A loud metallic clang rang from the shadows beyond the crystal. Then another. Darien turned sharply toward the sound. He couldn't see anything, but he felt something watching them. The holographic figure that had spoken before flickered again. Its calm expression shifted, its voice now layered with static. Warning. Unauthorized presence detected. Activating defense protocols. Darien's heart pounded. Yeah, I knew this was a bad idea. Suddenly, the walls hummed to life, and from the dark recesses of the chamber, figures emerged, towering, humanoid constructs made of black metal and glowing blue circuitry. Their angular heads turned toward Darien and Silara in eerie unison. Then they moved. With a clank of shifting metal, the constructs stepped forward, their limbs unfolding like ancient war machines awakening from a long slumber. Their hands, once empty, morphed into weapons, crackling with blue energy. Darien cursed under his breath. I really don't like this. Silara took a step back, her body glowing faintly, as if reacting to the station's energy. They're guardians, she said. They're programmed to protect this place. Darien raised his blaster. Great. Protected from what? Silara's expression darkened. From anyone who isn't Nixuri. The first guardian lunged. Darien rolled aside just in time, the creature's energy blade slicing through the air where he had stood a second ago. The impact left a burning scar on the floor. He fired his blaster, but the bolt barely left a mark on the guardian's metal plating. Yeah, that's not good. Another guardian charged toward Silara, but as it swung its weapon, something strange happened. The energy in its blade flickered, hesitated, as if sensing her presence. Silara's veins pulsed brighter, and the air around her shifted. The guardian stopped mid-strike. Darien, still dodging attacks, saw it. What just happened? Silara lifted her hand, her fingers trembling as she focused on the guardian before her. Its glowing blue circuits dimmed slightly, as if responding to her. The station recognizes me, she whispered. I can control them. Darien ducked another swing, then gritted his teeth. Then maybe control them faster, because I'm running out of room to dodge. Silara clenched her jaw, stepping forward. Her silver skin glowed like liquid metal, and she spoke, not in human words, but in the ancient Nixuri tongue. The guardian in front of her hesitated. Then its weapon retracted. The other guardians stopped, their heads snapping toward her. The tension in the air thickened. Silara lifted her chin. Stand down. For a long, terrible moment, nothing happened. Then the guardians stepped back. Their glowing eyes dimmed, their weapons retracting fully. The threat was gone. Darien exhaled sharply, lowering his blaster. Okay, that was terrifying. Silara turned toward him, her expression a mix of relief and awe. This station isn't just a ruin. It's still active. And I can control it. Darien's stomach twisted. That's great and all, but if you can control it, that means the Dominion could too. Silara's face darkened. Not if we stop them first. A new holographic interface appeared near the crystal. Alarms blared through the ancient station, their deep, mechanical tones vibrating through the metal walls. The holographic display flickered, showing the incoming Dominion fleet, a dozen warships, their sleek, angular hulls glowing with deadly red energy. Darien Voss cursed under his breath. They found us faster than I expected. Silara stood in front of the glowing Nixuri control interface, Her amethyst eyes locked onto the approaching ships. The silver veins on her skin pulsed brightly, sensing with the energy of the station. "They won't take this place," she said, voice steady. Darien tightened his grip on his blaster. "I love the confidence, but unless this station has some secret weapons, we're outnumbered." Silara's fingers hovered over the ancient symbols, her mind racing. The Guardians had obeyed her, which meant the station still recognized her as Nixari. But could she control its defenses? She closed her eyes and focused. The chamber around them hummed with power, the crystal at the center pulsing brighter. Then, a deep vibration rumbled through the station. Darien stumbled back, his eyes widening as the walls shifted, revealing massive hidden turrets built into the station's exterior. Blue energy crackled to life within them, ancient weapons powering up after centuries of silence. Darien let out a low whistle. "Okay, that's new." Silara's voice was firm. "I told you, this place isn't dead." The first strike. Outside, the Dominion warships descended, their weapons charging. The lead ship, a towering dreadnought, locked onto the station, preparing to fire. But before it cooled, the station struck first. Beams of pure blue energy erupted from its hidden turrets, slicing through space with terrifying speed. The first Dominion cruiser exploded instantly, its shields useless against the ancient weaponry. Darien grinned. "Now that's what I'm talking about." The Dominion fleet scattered, dodging as the station's defenses continued firing. But more ships pushed forward, launching waves of attack drones toward the station. Silara's fingers danced across the interface. "I can take control of some of them." Darien aimed his blaster toward the docking bay entrance, where he knew Dominion soldiers would try to board. "Then do it fast." Infiltration. An explosion rocked the station as a Dominion boarding pod crashed into the docking bay. Metal screeched, and within seconds, the hatch burst open. Armed Dominion soldiers poured in. Darien fired first, taking down two before they even hit the ground. He ducked behind a pillar as laser fire tore through the air, heating the metal around him. Silara barely flinched. Her silver veins glowed brighter, and suddenly, the station's guardians reactivated. The towering black metal constructs turned toward the invading Dominion soldiers. Their blue eyes flared. Then, they attacked. Blades of pure energy extended from their arms as they charged forward, slicing through the Dominion troops with terrifying precision. Darien peeked from cover and let out a breath. "I think I'm starting to like these guys." Silara focused on the interface again. The Dominion fleet wasn't retreating. More ships were arriving. They wouldn't stop until they took the station. "Unless, we need to break their command ship," she said. "If we take it out, they'll fall into chaos." Darien nodded. "Then let's do it." The final move. Silara reached deeper into the station's systems, feeling the ancient power flow through her. She could sense the core of the station, its buried strength waiting to be unleashed. She whispered in Nixari, calling to it. The station answered. A massive energy surge built up within the central spire, but it was already too late. The station fired. A single pulse of blue-white energy erupted from its core, a shockwave that tore through space itself. The Dominion dreadnought shattered, its entire structure disintegrating in an instant. The remaining warships panicked, their formations breaking. Darien watched in awe. That was incredible. Silara finished, breathing heavily. The Dominion retreated. Their forces, leaderless and scattered, jumped to hyperspace, fleeing into the void. The battle was over. A new purpose. Silence filled the station. The Guardians stood motionless. The air still hummed with power, but now it was peaceful. Darien turned to Silara. "So, what now?" She looked around the chamber, the place of her ancestors. The truth of her people, hidden for so long, was now hers to protect. She met his gaze. "Now, we rebuild." Darien smirked. "Sounds like a lot of work." Silara smiled. Then it's a good thing I have a stubborn human to help me. Darien chuckled. Yeah. Let's just make sure no more surprise warships show up first. As they stood together in the heart of the station, one thing was clear. This wasn't just a fight for survival. This was the beginning of something greater.